Welcome to the Featured Anime Podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Rick.
And today we are talking about weathering with you because, you know, I'm weathering with you, sir.
All the hard times with me.
Every moment. Figuratively and literally. Well, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Okay. But before all that, we were talking a little bit about Overlord and how much we want to really dive into this patron exclusive choice, give it the justice it deserves. And I can tell you this right now, we both are loving the revisit for Overlord Season 1. And that's what this patron exclusive is going to be about. You want to catch a part of that wider conversation or get an ad-free experience, patreon.com/featured anime podcast, $1 a month. We'll get you access to that bonus content or ad-free experience. Now, on to the meat and potatoes. Weathering With You came out July 2019. Producers for it are Toho, Lawson, HMV, JR East Marketing Communications, Kadokawa, just to name a couple. Studio for it is Comics Wave Films. It is an original, so there is no source material for this. And the genres for it are drama, fantasy, romance, slice of life. And it ran for about an hour, 50 something minutes, 50, 51, 52, 53, around there.
Something 54, like that. 55. I'm starting to see a pattern, by the way.
What?
All these really, I'm going to say decent movies, we'll discuss, run about 2 hours. Whereas most movies I go to, like in the theaters, an hour 30 is usually the limit. So. Yeah. I could see that, you know, I mean, I guess. I guess.
Look, so this movie, totally not what I thought it was going to be. Completely different from the expectation that I had for it.
Okay.
I didn't expect it. I mean, from the name, I figured like weather would be kind of factored into it. I didn't realize that it was going to be such a focal driving point for it, you know?
Well, see, you and I took it differently. I thought weathering was going to be more focused on the passage of time, or I didn't realize it was going to be a double entendre where, yeah, you're right. Weather, like rain, thunder, lightning, sun, was so pivotal. But I thought it was going to be like, you know, growing old, fighting against, I thought it was going to be a time they were fighting against time. Like when it first opens up, you see this girl who you find out is pivotal to the story is crying over a I'm not gonna call it a body, but like kinda. I don't know if they're dead yet, but it's a man or a boy doing a voiceover. So I was like, oh, they're gonna isekai somewhere, and it's gonna be time. Like they got to fight against the clock. Someone's got cancer. Someone's something. I read the slice of life and I went, oh yeah, someone died. Someone's gonna die soon.
Yeah. And instead what they show is at the beginning, they have all this narrations going on. They show a light going to a very particular spot in the building. And it's more so because she was praying. She wanted to have one more day to be able to walk under the blue sky with her mom. And they do specify that, at least in the dubs. Or not dubs, sorry, subs, they specify that. So she runs out in the rain, runs over to this one area, and on top of this rando building, there's a shrine. I don't know about you, but on a rickety building that is falling apart, my first response is not to walk through this rando shrine praying on top of this building. I mean, my first thought wouldn't even be to go up said building, but, you know, that's just me.
Why not? I mean, that makes sense to me personally.
Right.
You know, totally would not be against going on this rickety thing that I could fall to my death on. But, you know, later on a foot and the floor drops out from underneath you. So you just got a Mario Kart. Like as you're driving, the floor keeps falling behind you. So just keep going faster and hopefully you outrun a drop.
And technically, to your credit, she does technically kind of get isekai'd into the world.
Kinda?
I mean, kinda. Kinda. I mean, so they talk about the clouds. They talk about how there's technically an entire world where we couldn't even possibly understand or know. And you're showing this when she gets thrown up in the air and you see all these like liquid fish type things and everything. And they kind of really don't delve beyond that for the entire show, you know? It's just you're showing this riggedy shine on this broken down building, and then after that you're showing this massive landmass-esque on top of clouds for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I'm curious,
go ahead.
Did those vegetables that were at the shrine that they always took a picture of, like a foot passing up over, I thought it was eggplant, cucumber, kind of odd fruits and vegetables around this shrine. I took it as signifying it wasn't a natural occurrence, because I am under the impression that specifically cucumbers, eggplants, and the other vegetables that are grown there are non-native. Like they're from Europe, but they're not native to the area. So I took that as a sign that the shrine was not like she stepped on holy ground. She stepped on foreign ground when she passed through those arches.
Well, again, I don't think you can technically call a rickety building holy ground. I mean, like you could. I'm not saying you can't. But
well, do you think how much time, in your opinion, from the beginning where she gets isekai'd, let's say, to the time he gets isekai'd, how much time do you think takes place? Years?
No, not
days,
even
hours.
What? No, like, are you talking about between the beginning and end?
Yeah,
not even a year. Not even a year. Like a few months.
So like a few months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's my point. That fruit, that those vegetables would be rotten by then, but they were still as pristine as the first time we see them, and in the same location, giving me the impression that they're the exact same, that they haven't aged at all. Well, it's a timeless location.
Well, it gives me the impression that she's not the only one that apparently goes up to that rickety old shrine for whatever reason.
It's possible.
I mean,
I assumed there was more than one, as they claim, Sunshine Girl. Like, I assumed that there were several, because the phenomenon of Sunshine Girls, plural, was brought up. And if there were multiple girls, so the big reveal of the whole movie is that this girl can call the sun. She can dispel the rain at a cost to her. And eventually that cost will cost, her life.
And so it's not her life directly, it's not that she just drops dead after X amount of time. You end up finding out that what ends up happening is she starts to disappear and basically become translucent, like the other water creatures that are up in the clouds that you see a couple of times. And that's about it.
Now they did mention that above the clouds, there could be an ecosystem and a life form and all this stuff that we're not familiar with.
Right. Like I had said in the beginning, where you had those like large green land masses, technically.
Now, I suspect those hover in a different dimension, kind of. And the reason I say that is this seems to be modern times, right?
Yeah.
They've got spacecraft. They've got things. They've got satellites to predict the weather, to help. Oh, it's going to rain here. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. So they have equipment above the clouds that if they wanted to, they could look down, because they got the Doppler, they've got the radar, they've got all that stuff. If it was visible on our dimension or in our dimension, they should have been able to take a satellite picture and been like, oh, look, there seems to be some green shit on that thing. Let's fly a plane up there and figure out what's going on, right? So my suspicion is when she crossed over to those arches, under those arches at that shrine, she became a resident of both worlds, let's say. And what I'm thinking is happening is when she disappears at a pivotal moment as the sacrifice, she is now brought to the other world. But what kind of confused me, is she food for those fish things?
I don't know, but if it's another dimension, right?
That she was pulled into, yes.
Right. The ring that she had, I mean, like, it makes sense at that point, right? Like, the ring she had just kind of falls right through her. She's no longer there.
Yep.
However, I don't think she's quite in another dimension at the same time, because it just falls through her, through the cloud, all the way down to the ground in our plane. Yeah. So I think it had to do more so with the fact that she was becoming like these other creatures, because everyone could still see those creatures. And when they finally did hit the ground, everyone was able to see them.
But whenever they touched them, they would pop and explode.
Right. They would just pop. Well, I mean, like, you have someone of a very particular molecular structure touching you. Of course, it would have an adverse reaction to what you would normally be encountered with. I mean, like, basically,
I agree with that. It sounds, we're getting way more scientific than the movie probably wanted to.
Oh yeah. However, I mean, it's honestly what it is. It's really just a basic at the core. All right. This movie is just really a real simple, pure and innocent love story in between two individuals.
I'd say a little bit more than two, but yeah, you got an A story, B story, and a C story. A story is the budding romance between them. B story is her disappearance, and C story is that old man boss person finally getting what he wants with his daughter.
Right.
So, and they all end up resolving themselves in what I imagine to be a satisfactory manner. But it's more than that. They've got really, really good. They've got really good imagery. Like, the animation is solid. Granted, they didn't spend their whole budget on it, but there are some stills in here, some overviews that are breathtaking. You're like, wow, they did a damn good job here. They must have spent at least 2 or 3 days just painstakingly adding detail after they did a rough draft.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's not just even the artwork, right? For the characters or the scenery. Like, they also did it at key points for their artwork. Now, sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes their artwork for the characters got a little wonky. They looked a little weird.
You don't say. But,
I mean, at least it survived other means, like everything else that it needed to survive and be solid with, it did, Yeah,
and I've got very little complaints with this movie. I have very little complaints and more than my fair share of accolades, I guess would be a good way to put it. That's my $5 word for the day.
Look at you, all educated.
Right. So I watched it on YouTube. Where did you watch it?
I watched it on HBO.
Oh, fancy.
So, well, it wasn't my login. So it was my mama dear's login. She was in town and she said, I have HBO. I was like, oh, I want your login. She said, okay. And then I logged in. And then I said, oh, they have Studio Ghibli movies on here. We should watch a few movies while you're out here. And so we did.
Right. Well, this isn't Studio Ghibli?
No, it's not. This is a G Kids. But I'm saying, like,
I was gonna say, that makes sense.
No. This is, if it was Studio Ghibli, I would have said Studio Ghibli.
Well, but that's why I was surprised. I was like, wait a second, hold up.
I said it was Co-Mix Wave Films, not a Studio Ghibli.
Yeah, well, obviously that explains my confusion. My concerned exclamation.
So what you're saying, sir, what you're saying is you actually listened and retained said information this time. I am touched.
Just barely. And when you threw contradictory stuff out, I was like, hold up. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. But that said, it's believable that this would be Studio Ghibli. They've got certain aspects. Well, no, the quality of the story, number one. The quality of the animation, number two. It's not as cartoony, but it does involve supernatural. So, I mean, those things that explode out when you touch them, those little fish things. Mm-hmm. There's no major folklore that Studio Ghibli kind of does, but I thought maybe they were trying to go for a more dramatic, more serious thing, broaden their horizons.
No, when it comes to Studio Ghibli, their story has always been in terms, which, this kind of follows suit a little bit, but more so with nature and in the environment in general. So, I mean, like, I guess
I can see that.
That's their larger focus. This does touch on it a little bit, though. So it's not like it doesn't.
Yeah, I can see that.
But
either way, really, really awesome stuff. I forgot what I was talking about. I got so drawn away by the Studio Ghibli comment that just train of thought abandoned rails.
No, we were. You asked me where I watched it, and you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So I watched it on YouTube, which means I was the responsible one, and I gave them money.
Hey, they get money. They get money. I pay for a lot of things.
When I clicked on it on my application, it wouldn't play. I'll show you right now. It still won't play. It'll still be like, we're processing this thing. I'm like, well, you charged me twice for it. So what's going on?
Right.
And so I had to log into my computer to watch it. And I turned on the subs while watching dubs. And
I'm always weary about that because you say that, and you need to understand, like, closed captions is not okay. All right.
They were not. They were saying one thing and reading another.
Okay.
100% another. They're like, I'm with you, and the sub is what was it? You're not bothering me, and the sub was say it with your heart. I'm like, that's not. That doesn't match.
Sure it does.
And they're like, oh, I don't want to bother you. And that's what they said. I don't want to bother you. But in the caption, it said something along the lines of, I'm always a nuisance. And I'm like, that's what? I mean, okay, but what?
Right.
And what was hilarious is when they were in the karaoke at not the end, but when they got their own room and they were singing karaoke, they were singing karaoke in English, but the subtitles were 100%. It was not even close to being the right song. I was like, this is great. This is great. Oh, man. So, yeah. Just curious, who was your favorite character?
Dude, you would ask me that, wouldn't you?
Uh-huh.
That is a good question. I'm going to say, God, I can't remember her name. What's her name?
The aunt?
No, not
or
the aunt.
The mistress?
No, she's not the. Yeah, well, technically, yeah. But Natsumi. That's her name, Natsumi.
Oh, who was she and what was she?
We just said what she was.
The mistress?
Yeah, her name's Natsumi. She's actually the uncle's niece, as you find out later on.
Yeah. I was going to say, because I was joking about the mistress, and I was like, you're like, yeah, the mistress. I'm like, wait, I don't remember there being a mistress. But I remember it was confused. Yeah.
Yes, okay. That's why I said, I figured you knew who I was talking about when Haruka comes in. He's like, oh, she's his mistress. Oh my God. It's like,
does he know she's married? Oh, crap.
Right. So, no, that's why I said that. I was like, yeah, no, it's Natsumi. Yeah, I would have to say that she honestly is my she would be my favorite character. I would have to say.
She's definitely in the top 2. But my favorite character, hands down, was that pimp of a little brother.
Oh, yeah.
Straight up talking to like one girl. So we were introduced to him as a fleeting, oh wow, okay. And he's talking to this really cute girl. Elementary school. Yeah, he's in elementary school.
He's introduced talking to a couple of different girls on the same bus. One gets off, one gets on.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say that's where it's at.
And
then he's introduced. Yeah, it's hilarious. Like one leaves and another one comes on. They don't see each other, and he's just spitting game, and we're like, oh God, okay, right? He knows what's up.
Exactly.
And then later on, you find out he's a little brother of the Sunshine Girl, and you're like, oh, this is gonna get good. And then here's another thing.
But it doesn't really get that good. It does get good. But
did you watch sub or dub?
How many times did I say it?
Well, so you watched the dub. Okay. So
how many times did I say it? How many times have I said what I watch?
I don't remember.
I watch subs whenever I can. I always watch subs unless I'm forced into dubs, or unless I'm unless I'm on the third or fourth watch through, then I'll watch it dubbed just to see the differences.
Okay, so you know how he calls him senpai a lot because of his ability with women, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In the dubbed, he doesn't. He avoids the word senpai like the plague, and he says it like 1 or 2 times. Now, in the subtitle, it wasn't closed caption, but in the subtitle, it's always senpai. It's always senpai, and then every other time, minus like 1 or 2 times, he actually says his name or the chick's younger brother. Like, hey, this is so and so's younger brother. Hey, younger brother, come here. Hey, it's never senpai.
Huh.
Okay. So I was like, that's unique.
I guess. I mean, I guess they didn't really want to touch on him calling someone younger than him senior.
I don't think it would matter too much.
I don't know.
Like,
I'm just taking a guess as to why they translated it the way they did. I'm just taking a stab. All right. I'm not saying I know the answers. All right. I'm just saying that could be it. All right. I'm not. Look, most of the time when they change dialogue, right, it's because they have to confine or restrict the verbiage that is being used to sync up with the mouth motions that are already there.
True. And senior and senpai seem very similar.
True.
So that would have been very easy to do.
But you also have to count in the other dialogue that goes along with it too.
Yeah, you got a point.
So if they work it in for once and they have difficulty working it in the rest of the time, it's like you have a discussion, and out of nowhere he just goes senior, and then discussion, senior, discussion, senior. It'd be a little weird.
True. Almost as weird as senpai. Discussion, senpai. Discussion, senpai.
But at least in the subs, he was more consistent with the senpais.
Fair. That is true. That is true. And what's kind of funny is in the subs, they use the word senpai. In the dubs, they use the word senpai. So there's no, there was no translation there. It's like, I should call you senpai.
Well, what? That just makes it even better, right? Discussion, senpai. Discussion, senpai. It'd be like them coming up and it'd be like discussion, sama. Discussion, sama.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man.
Just randomly walk up to the cop that's trying to arrest him. Just what's up, senpai? How you doing, sama? All right, cool. Deuces. Walk away. What?
Oh man. Yeah. Oh yeah. And all the while this is going on, our main character is being chased by the cops. One of the cops has I think they call it a pompadour. The hairstyle is that what it's called?
Bro, I don't care what the hairstyle is called. I just wish I had hair like that in general.
I was gonna say, the way he was rocking that did not look bad. Wasn't great. Like I feel like it was the greaser version of it, like slicked back a little bit, but looked good. Looked real good.
It looked coming from a man who is balding or mostly bald or has very little. It's not the point. I can't I can't have miraculous hair like that. All right. The hair that he has is just magnificent. It's beautiful. It's kind of awe-inspiring a little bit. I kind of want to grow out my hair now just so I could do that. I just know I won't be able to pull it off.
I mean, it depends how much hair you're trying to grow out. They got comb overs that'll work, I'm sure.
Well, I could also buy a wig that would work, but I want it to be all au natural.
It wouldn't work. It'd be faster. It wouldn't work.
yeah. You know, that's true. It's true.
But yeah, she was the main character was able to work with weather and made me think every so often they just forget there's a person there. And if it happens so often, every time there's a torrential like flood of the world, you'd figure they'd keep records of this more publicly, you know?
So what I think it is I think it's a little bit more ominous than that, right? So it's the world is set in a very particular way or it goes about a very specific motion. until some poor schlub comes along, was like, I want it to be sunny out. I wish it was really sunny. And then they start praying and hoping and wishing for said sun. And then the skies decide to go, yeah, you know what? We could totally work with you on this. Go to this Brigadink shrine out of nowhere. And then you have to sacrifice yourself, because you know what's going to happen is, as soon as you walk through here, you're going to be in direct control of the weather, and you will have to pray and sacrifice yourself to be able to get it sunny. And then, when we're ready for you to come up here and spend time with us, we'll return the weather to normal.
Are you? So my issue is that when we're told about it, we're also told that every village had their own sunshine girl, essentially their own weather whisperer, if you will. And if there were so many that were sacrificed so often, right? Why was that lost to the annals of time? Why was that? What did they just sacrifice enough people that? Well, and if my assumption's correct, go ahead.
This is why I said that it only becomes an issue or problem when someone actually starts wanting this and walks through that shrine.
Here's the thing.
Once they walk through that shrine, that's when they're like, okay, well, you know what? You wanted this. We're going to give you the power. However, there is going to be a caveat to that. You now have to sacrifice yourself. And once they're sacrificed, it'll go back to normal how it was until someone wants to be able to have it sunshine when it's not sunshiny out. And then they're like, all right, well, we'll give you this power, but in exchange, you have to sacrifice yourself. Or otherwise, if you don't, it will continue downpour, and we will not stop until we are satisfied with your sacrifice.
You ready for a hole in your theory?
I would love it.
So when speaking to the old lady at the rather
old man
end of the, no, I thought it was old lady at the end of the movie. They explained that Tokyo was underwater before.
Yeah. Oh, that part. Yeah.
So that leads me to believe that its natural state, Tokyo's natural state, was that of Tokyo Bay.
Right. Yeah.
At least in this particular time frame.
Right.
And they started sacrificing people to the rain gods,
right,
if you will, to create sun.
Right.
Because 200 years ago, roughly the same time that this started becoming sunnier, they sacrificed these people and then got their sun. Maybe they sacrificed so many that it just took forever and a day for the rains to come back, for their sacrifices to be, as I see it, consumed. Because remember, I originally thought, and still kind of do, think that the girl is brought up there to be food or sustenance for the space fishies. So maybe there was so many that were brought up there, so it was so plentiful a harvest that it just took 200 years for it to come back.
See, you feel like that pokes a hole in my theory, but it really doesn't. It just takes it just changes it into a different way, but helps support it at the same time.
I'm gonna need your assistance with that, sir.
Okay, so I said that they're saying, hey, we will give you the control of the weather, but you have to sacrifice yourself in exchange for that. You're saying, well, we have to sacrifice you so that way we have sustenance for that, and in exchange you get to control the weather. Regardless, either way, it's like you reach this particular point and you can either go, hey, this person has to be food for sustenance, and that's how it's able to stay like this. At which point, if I might add, they would have already had another person that was a sacrifice within the 3-year span between then and there.
Okay.
So that's the problem with your theory. My theory is more so, my theory is more so, and I'm not saying my theory is perfect either. I know there's big flaws with mine too. So don't, what I'm saying is the weather stays the way it is and it moves through its normal motions until it gets to the state to where someone wants to change it. And for the person that wants to change it, they're the ones that end up being the sacrifice. And it goes on to be that way from that sacrificial point of view.
Okay. So where I was coming from, I think, was something to the effect of it was already raining, or it was already odd weather as a natural occurrence, which is why Tokyo Bay was as flooded as it was. And then you're saying that was at the end. The beginning of the movie was the beginning of the 200 200 years ago, but before it started getting sunny.
Right. So, what I'm saying is at the beginning of the movie, because the old lady says it used to be like, it used to be and the world is just moving back to its normal state. What I'm saying is someone at the very beginning decided to be a sacrifice and control the weather. And so when they sacrificed themselves, it stayed on that course until someone else also sacrificed themselves, and they would alter that perception of weather based on the person's individual sacrifices.
Yeah. You know what I was originally thinking? I'm going to just say that you're probably close to being right. I think I'm close to being right too. We'll never know. But while I was watching this, I assumed if there's sun girls, there must be rainy boys or something like that. Like, am I wrong though? Like you got some emo dudes out there going, I don't want to see the sun.
Hang on. You are 100% not wrong. And the reason why I say that is because homeboy at the very end, he goes through the shrine too, and he ends up in the sky too with those fishy people.
Created the rain.
And he created the rain.
That's funny.
While pulling homegirl back down, so that way they could be together forever.
And except he gets arrested and deported, essentially.
No, he gets arrested and he gets put on probation and has to go to high school while on probation.
And then instead of finding out she's 2 years older than him, like he thought, she ends up being 3 years younger than him.
No, she's a year younger, not
13.
3. She wasn't 13. She was 15.
15?
She was 15.
I thought she was in middle school.
No.
Compulsory school.
No. She's 15. Her brother's in compulsory school.
Then that's where the dub and the sub change it too.
Yeah, they said she lied saying she was 3 years older than what she was so she could get a job, because she said she was 18 and she was not 18. She was 15.
Okay. And then he gets probation until he ends up getting a slap on the wrist for pointing a gun with live ammunition at officers, at people, at...
Well, we know that he's on probation, part of it, but there was a trial. We don't know the full details of it or any other repercussions that had to go along with it. So that's all we know. I also know that Japan has very strict gun laws in comparison to the US. So I know that those that, one way or the other, like who knows what the full extent of everything that happened was,
What I found quite interesting is there was actually a billboard at the very, not beginning, but like closer to the beginning of the movie that was like live ammunition, live ammunition, live ammunition. And I couldn't help but think, is there any other kind? If you're going to buy a gun, you want bullets to go with it. And it just seemed like...
It wasn't live ammunition. It was a news article that with them saying that guns were confiscated with live ammunition versus guns being confiscated with like blanks or, pellet gun or something like that. That's what they were saying.
Oh, okay. Then I misunderstood that then.
Yeah. It's not like they're going out there saying, hey, you can go out there and buy live ammunition. It's like, no,
I thought it was like an advertisement.
No, you can only get shotguns, and shotguns are only legal in Japan, to my knowledge. And in order for you to be able to get ammunition for the shotgun, you have to return the spent shotgun shells in exchange to get new shells. So if you lose one shell, you're boned.
Oh, that's rough.
So, it's like
that is rough.
You don't get any more, or there's certain restrictions to which you would have to adhere to be able to get more. Like they are super strict. Like handguns, not a thing. Like you're not allowed to have a handgun or anything like that. You can get a shotgun and you can get shotgun shells, and you can go to a licensed, certified, designated firing range to use said shotgun. But in order for you to get replacement ammo for that shotgun, you have to bring back the spent shells.
I can't speak on it. It sounds much stricter than I thought it was, but it makes sense. So I can't really speak on that.
So, well, I really, honestly, I don't have too much more to say, sir. How about you?
Yeah, no, I think we're done. I think we're ready for a rating. Usually I go first, so I think I'll go first this time again.
Please. I mean,
just if we're
going
off of
tradition
history here.
Tradition. going off of tradition. Yes, by all means.
I'm gonna give this movie. It's gonna be a high number. I know that. Solid writing, solid story. Do you know if it was an original? I don't remember you saying if it was or wasn't.
I said it was an original.
Okay, so it has no other source material.
Well, it had manga, I believe, or a light novel that came out after it.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's probably going to be the same story, just probably a little bit more fleshed out, is what I would assume.
That'd be kind of interesting to see. I'm going to go with. Well, let's recap. It's got phenomenal most of the time imagery. It has a solid story. It has unique characteristics. It almost made me cry. It gets you invested real well with some of the characters and makes you pissed off at some of the other ones. So it's got really awesome range of emotion you got to go through, or typically you would go through. I'm debating between an 8 or a 9. Not a 10, unfortunately, for the reasons I listed, but it's really damn good. I'm going to go with a 9. I'm going with a 9. What about you, sir?
I'm going with an 8. I'm going with an 8. Just too many questions, too many things that were just like kind of left unanswered, like no real information or anything like that. Just kind of left me like, what the hell's going on here? Like random water blobs floating up in the air type of things. Just like makes me go, what?
I just assumed those were other beings that were filling up with water.
See, but like
you don't know for sure. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and it also just happened randomly over the boat at the very beginning too. So
I got nothing, but yeah, no, that makes sense.
It did have its moments, had its positive, it had some positive and negative moments. It had some funny moments like when the little brothers being watched by the officers. Right?
Yeah, that was gold.
The girls walks in and he's like, man, he's got a lot of visitors today. What the hell? Man? He's a little player.
Yeah.
Even the officer was like, this fool is a player.
Yeah. Well, so given you've put up some pretty good points. I'm gonna have to reduce my number to an 8 as well. Because I forgot about those blob monster things.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a good movie. Well worth the watch. It would be something I would definitely watch again. It's something I could easily recommend to anyone. No issues with that. So thanks again for the wonderful recommendation, our Chilean master of great shows.
So
our
far,
senpai.
Haven't missed.
That's batting 1,000, man. I'm telling you, there's got to be one that is not good. There has to be.
I'm satisfied without seeing that so far. So
me too. So
you true.
Me true. I
tell the truth, I promise.
All right. So next week's choice is also from them. Okay. And it's a Studio Ghibli, which is why I brought it up earlier.
Yeah,
nice it's The Secret World of Arrietty.
Why does that sound familiar?
Probably you've probably seen it. I saw the artwork for it. Looks vaguely familiar. That's all the time that we have for today. Thanks for hanging out with us. If we got something right, something wrong, did it too much justice, not enough justice, or if you really feel like anything else at all, go ahead and reach out to us, featuredanimepodcast@gmail.com, at those anime guys on Twitter, at Featured Anime Podcast on Facebook. If you want to get the extended show where we will talk always usually before each show and sometimes even after each show, patreon.com/featured anime podcast. Or if you want an ad-free experience, you can also go there. $1 a month will get you that ad-free experience or extended content just for you. And you get a bonus episode all the time. This month's bonus episode we're going to be coming out with here soon is Overlord. Season 1, doing a revisit to our number 1 episode and actually giving it the justice it deserves. You want to catch a part of that, again, patreon.com/featured anime podcast. And until next time, I'm Jack.
I'm Rick. And hopefully we'll see you on the next sunny day. Later.